Welcome, everyone, to This Podcast is for Nerds. And this week, we're going to be talking about our favorite Xbox 360 games. How you doing this week, Zach?
That was incredible. That was awesome. This week, wow, that intro was so great. I can't even, that was great. I'm great. This week is great.
Good. So if there's anyone new joining us, this podcast is for nerds is a general discussion type podcast where we talk about our favorite nerdy subjects, and we're kind of on we've been at this for like probably almost a month now of going through our favorite video games from each console. This week we're on the 360, the Xbox 360. So if you don't already follow us, you should follow us. We're on Instagram at This Pod is for Nerds. And on Twitter, we're at This Pod is the number 4 Nerds. So let's get started. So the Xbox 360 was released in North America. I got the date here somewhere. No, discontinued. Okay. So it was released, North America, November 22nd of 2005. And this generation ran for 11 years, which feels crazy. Given we're about to enter a new generation. So this generation lasted, it doesn't feel as long. What is your experience with the Xbox 360, Zach?
The Xbox 360 was the first time I deviated and played away from, I would say, Japanese-based consoles, actually. And I get it now that now that I say that out loud, there weren't a ton of options, I don't think, before then.
No, before then you had the original Xbox, so did you not have one of those?
I didn't. I went to a friend's house and played with that too, and I think... And honestly, up until recently, when I purchased what did I actually buy at my house? We had a GameCube. I think we just had a GameCube. A lot of my friends at the time, I was driving, so I could just go to their houses.
Yeah.
And everything else in my world wasn't really conducive to playing video games all the time. So
yeah, we're starting to get to that generation where we had more responsibilities, so there was probably less time. But I certainly, for me, this was like probably my most used console, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, so I've got a lot of experience with this. I owned 2 of them. I had divorced parents, so I had an Xbox at each house, and this was the first time I had experienced online play. I don't know if that was your experience as well.
I'm gonna say no, only because of the original Xbox.
Oh, okay. So you were playing Halo 1 and 2 online?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I never did that. Halo 3 was like my first Halo game online. So... yeah, this console was pretty incredible. It really I think it outperformed the PS3 in a major way. It didn't have all the hardware that the PS3 had, but it had I think, better online experience. And I think for that reason is why the Xbox kind of dominated this generation. And eventually we'll get into the next generation and we'll see how that kind of changed. Because the PS4 definitely dominated this generation we're currently in. I think it's got more than double the sales of the Xbox One. I don't know about you. There was a major issue with the Xbox 360 at a certain point. I think most people, there was a survey released, I think via Games Radar, that over 50% of Xbox 360 users experience this. It was called the Red Ring of Death. And what would happen was the Xbox would overheat, and there was little rings on the front of the Xbox where the power button was, and that's how you saw actually how many controllers were connected, which I thought was a super cool way of doing it. and kind of fit in with the name, the 360. It's, it's a ring. But 3 of those lights would light up red, and the Xbox would be bricked.
Yeah, that probably coincided with the the rise of video game rage quit videos.
Oh, totally.
Well.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, yeah, because so this came out in 2005, which is the same year of YouTube. So this is kind of like
really? Holy crap!
Yeah, dude. YouTube is 15 years old, which is crazy.
It's crazy to think that that's all it is.
Yeah, right? We just have so much experience with it. But this was like, this generation was kind of the birth or maybe the explosion of the popularity in Let's Plays. I think there were Let's Plays before this generation, but it was certainly popularized with YouTube. And, capture cards were becoming easier to obtain. People weren't, taking their camcorder and just recording their TV screen as they were playing their video game. So did you have this? Did your Xbox have this?
No, I never was really interested in, like, I don't know, playing back anything.
Oh, no. I meant the Red Ring.
Oh,
I bounced back. Sorry.
It didn't.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
By the time I got my Xbox, I had bought it, or actually I had gotten it from a friend because he upgraded. It was when they built in the internal fans to help it stay cool. So I never ran into this issue, actually.
Oh, nice.
But there are plenty of people who did.
Yes, I am one of them. My original 360 that I had bought, I paid for half of for Christmas the year it came out. Mowed lawns like all summer in preparation for it. I watched E3. I think that was the E3 when they announced it, and basically spent my whole summer mowing lawns to get enough money to get it on launch day. So that one lasted about, I want to say, a year and a half. And
which,
then
to be fair, is not bad. And it still sucks. Don't get me wrong, but I've seen people go out in a few months. But then again, they're like marathon players too.
Yeah. So my cousin had an even worse experience, and I totally understand. He does not. He's not a Microsoft supporter anymore. He experienced the Red Ring. And the way it worked was, if you were still in warranty, Microsoft would repair the Xbox and return it to you at no cost. With that said, this all kind of popped off all at once. So there was a huge backlog. I think it took him like 3 months to get his Xbox back. And it lasted about another month, and then it red ringed again.
And by that time, all the prestige he gained on Call of Duty was gone.
Yeah, this was the dawn of the prestige in the Call of Duty. So
I love the prestige people who would fight for prestige, and then they came up with prestige level 2, and that level.
Oh, it ruined everything. Yeah,
it erased everything. Like, it was, once you prestige, you lost everything you fought for.
Yeah, I never did it. I just sat at that top level. Because I got to keep all my stuff.
I was just the double dead man's hand guy. I was like, you know what? I'm not trying to be good at online combat, so I'm going to get all my perks to go in once my character dies. So I just ran in with a handgun and a shield, and then once I got like down, I would just pull out 2 grenades and clear whatever room the campers are hiding out in.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is, so for me, like, this is like the first generation where you could really tell the difference between generations as far as graphical fidelity, game performance. This was HD, so now these Xboxes had an HDMI cable that would plug into your TV if you had HDMI in your TV.
And the good old Cat 6 Ethernet cable.
Yeah, the Ethernet cable. So this was my first online experience and first time dealing with online trolls, and this was my first wireless controller that didn't require a hub. So I had the wireless GameCube controller, but that you needed to plug a dongle into the front of the GameCube for that to work, and those both ran on batteries.
I forgot about that, actually.
Yeah. So this is like my first true wireless controller. And to this day, it's one of my favorites. It's definitely not my favorite. But it's such a solid controller. Great response time. And this is the generation. So we haven't talked about the original Xbox. We'll probably do this one day, but this was so with the original Xbox controller, you had triggers. You had a left and right trigger, and then you had the black and white button, which depending on the game did different things. So this generation, they got rid of the black and white button, and they replaced it with bumpers, which was a great move in my opinion. I think the black and white buttons were super difficult to reach on the original Xbox, so I thought that was a great idea. Do you have anything else you want to say about the hardware or the generation in general before we get into favorite games?
I would just say that I think because you mentioned the improvement in the graphics. This wasn't seen, like you saw it during gameplay, but where it really started to shine is when we started having games that had like cutscenes for stories. And totally. That's when we started seeing the evolution of basically you're not playing a game anymore, you're playing a movie.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, totally.
If anyone's currently playing oh wow, I forgot the name. I had said Left 4 Dead earlier, now it's messing me up.
The Last of Us 2?
The Last of Us Part 2. That's playing a movie. That's not playing a game anymore.
Totally. It looks, this was like the first generation where I was like, this looks like real life. Like, I believe this. And now even more so with the new generation that we're currently in. I definitely felt that way with, I'm replaying Last of Us right now, the first one. And, the PS4 version, the remaster, has HDR support, and it is so stunning. The cutscenes are unbelievable.
Yeah, it really just kind of drags you into everything. It's nuts, honestly.
Yeah. So this one sold at launch at $299.
Really?
The core, yeah. $399 for the 20 gigabyte hard drive, the one with the 20 gigabyte hard drive. So, in my remembrance, is a pretty fair price. I recall the PS3 was actually pretty expensive on launch, so I think that may have also been the reason that people switched over to the 360.
The PS3 was expensive on launch, and it was kind of just riddled with issues as far as like, they didn't have the they were playing the packaged up game in the online support system. I honestly, like, Xbox Live was where it's at. Like, if you weren't on Xbox Live, you weren't playing a game.
Yeah, absolutely. And they had their own hardware issues. They had the yellow ring of death, which didn't affect as many people, but definitely still a problem. Right. It was funny, before we move on, I learned that the red ring of death cost Microsoft over $1 billion.
Oh.
Yeah, which is just, it's crazy to think that hardware failure was so high at over 50%, costing them $1 billion to fix.
I wonder what do you think about it? The amount of games that they had probably was definitely a factor, right? But I wonder for them, they didn't anticipate how many people would start really like playing games.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't recall. This was too long ago for my memory. I was still in middle school at this point when it came out. I don't recall there being huge delays in shipments of them. Like, I don't remember like them flying off the sales so much that they fell behind in production. Certainly could be, though.
Oh, no, I meant more so like they weren't anticipating people playing games for as long as they did per session.
Oh, yeah, it could be.
And that wearing the components out to, like, maybe their playtesting were based on the amount of hours people played games now, or during that generation, which was like Xbox, GameCube, PS2, and stuff like that. So,
yeah, that's definitely possible. There were a few reiterations of this console too as the generation went on. There was the Xbox 360S, which was their slim model. They also had the Elite, which is what I had, and that one did not run into the same red ring of death issue. I don't know if the S had that.
I don't think it did either. I think the S also had an internal fan cooling system, or at least at one point they offered a external fan you could snap onto it, which I don't think worked as well. Because, you know, you're still not able to pull heat away as if it was, you know, a solid unit together.
Yeah, yeah.
Someone from Microsoft who eventually listens to this, let us know.
Yeah, I would love to hear it.
You gotta want to know what's up.
Yeah, this is the sixth highest selling video game console in history.
Really?
And it is the highest selling console made by an American company. So, yeah, Xbox One has performed very poorly this generation, unfortunately. And I think a lot of that has to do with leadership. But we'll get onto that in the Xbox One episode if we ever do one. So let's get into the games, because that's what the video game consoles are for. We won't get into the Kinect because that piece of hardware
spied on everybody before Alexa did.
Oh yeah, totally, man. Yeah, it's constantly recording us, and then they released it again with the Xbox One, which is a huge mistake. So what is the first game you'd like to talk about, Zach? And these we should say I don't think these inherently have to be exclusives to the generation.
I would say that we can't start off anything like this without talking about Halo.
Yeah, agreed.
But I also agree that, like, we're not going to spend a ton of time talking about Halo because we've all played Halo. We all know what's up. And technically it started on the Xbox original. I can't even call it, what, Xbox Zero, maybe? Because it can't be the 360.
Yeah, I think it's just called Xbox, but...
Yeah. So I think going from there, I'm going to go with Gears of War, and Gears of War 2. Honestly, the Gears series is just awesome. I think it really brought in a different kind of aspect of gameplay and storytelling that wasn't available really with Call of Duty. It played off of Halo in the sense of, like, it was Halo's more violent older brother. But I really enjoyed playing that. I think the 360 is when I got into a lot of multiplayer with a lot of friends. So most of my time was spent playing, like, Gears of War. When I first got into the Borderlands series, so Borderlands 2. A couple solo player games. But I think a lot of it was just kind of social. So it was a lot of the games I mentioned, and then you have, like, Castle Crashers, which is a fun game. Came from Newgrounds or from Newgrounds Studios. Actually, it's not Newgrounds Studios. I forgot who actually made that game, but it's not that.
I'll look it up while you're talking.
Yeah, but those are a lot of the social games. I think for individual games, I played a lot of ports from the PS2. Like, I really loved the Need for Speed Most Wanted game, but the Xbox 360 version was not the same game, and that was unfortunate. I also played Fable 3, and I started playing Fable 3 and just couldn't get to the intro where I had to go and high five like 50 people to get this achievement. So I just returned the game because it was garbage. So I wasn't trying to do that. And everyone's favorite or least favorite game, because some people who love the Fallout franchise say 3 is the best and never like anything after. But I personally like New Vegas because I just thought it was great. I don't have a reason for it, and I'm not going to explain myself.
So the Castle Crusher series, I forgot. I've met the devs for this game. It's from Behemoth.
That's right. There we go.
They made Alien Hominid, which is probably one of my favorite GameCube games. They also did Battle Block Theater, which is also a really fun game, and Pit People.
They just troll you so hard, and even as the game gets harder. Okay, so if you've never played any of these games, then don't continue, because it's going to be a spoiler. But long story short, they basically make the end of a game a joke every time, and it's satisfying but very frustrating.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah, there was a lot this generation. As far as exclusives go, it wasn't, I think the heavy hitters are like the ones you mentioned, Fable 2, Halo. I think PlayStation in general has done a really good job at giving people exclusive single player games. Like this generation, we got The Last of Us on the PlayStation. That's considered like a masterpiece by most. But this was definitely I think this was like the social video gaming era. I think a lot of people were playing games together online because the internet was becoming more easily accessible for people. So yeah, some of my favorites are probably not exclusives, although I really enjoyed Saints Row. That was an exclusive to the Xbox 360. I've just loved that series in general. I also probably still holds up as one of my favorite games of all time. This isn't an exclusive, but Bioshock and Bioshock Infinite.
Oh yeah,
They're probably some of my favorite. It's to me. So like I keep bringing up Last of Us, but like Last of Us has a great story, but the gameplay is pretty awful in my opinion. I think shooting is just dreadful. And I think Bioshock and specifically Bioshock Infinite offer a similar storied experience. Like it feels like a movie at certain points, but it also has just as good of gameplay. Did you ever play?
I definitely agree with that. That it definitely feels more like a movie. It was more like a gothic noir type of like investigation, almost like it was well, not to LA noir, but underwater with a lot of mystery. And a lot of drugs.
Tons of drugs. I did all the plasmids. So did you beat the first Bioshock game?
I didn't, but I did. So at that time, I didn't have an Xbox yet, but I played along with a friend of mine. So like, I knew how and what was going on. Big question for you though is: did you like Bioshock more than Bioshock Infinite, or were they both just great for you?
So I remember. So my experience with Bioshock, the original. The Xbox that I had that I got on launch was at my dad's, and I only saw him on weekends. So most of for the first like year or so, Xbox 360 experiences were at my friend's house because he got it around the same time. So this came out in like 2007, I think. So this was like right before I got mine at my main house. So I watched my friend play the original Bioshock. I didn't really play it until I had already seen the entire game. I basically did a let's play, watched my friend play it. And going back, it was still great, but I knew it was coming. We had different endings. So, there's like two different endings to the game. I don't want to spoil it if you don't know.
Oh yeah, I know about all of them.
Okay, yeah. So when my friend played, he got the like pure ending where he saved all the little sisters. And I guess I should have warned. This is spoilers for a 13-year-old game, but so at the end of the game, you adopt all these little sisters and they're there with you at your deathbed. I got a different ending because I didn't get all of them. It's not as positive of an ending.
No.
But I think like, so for me, I went on to play Bioshock 2, obviously have less fond memories of that game. Not a wonderful game, but Bioshock Infinite came back to Ken Levine. He's kind of the mastermind behind this game series, and so he came back for this Bioshock Infinite, and I just think the story is better. Okay. I remember seeing the trailer at E3. I was like, oh, cool. There's going to be, it's going to be in the same place. We're going to have like underwater experience. It's going to be like noir and creepy. And then there's a moment where it opens, I think, the elevator doors, and you see, you're in the sky this time, and you're on these like hot air balloons. And I was like, wow, this is going to feel like tonally very different. Like I remember seeing the trailer and being like, I don't know that this is going to be like as intense or scary for me. And I was completely wrong. I think this version is a much more intense and scary game, maybe because of the cult like aspect and the multiple realities that you can experience, and then the big reveal at the end. I think makes for a better game.
All of that was, I think the best way to describe that from my perspective is it reinvigorated the Bioshock. I don't know, it's not reinvigorated, but it kind of just, you know how some games can get stale and just kind of keep things as they are?
Yeah.
This felt like it was a way to like take the storytelling to a whole new level, open up different like ideas of what could and couldn't happen. It was incredibly wild and not what I anticipated.
Yeah, I think Bioshock Infinite offers one of my favorite video game moments, and it's pretty early in the game, so it won't be spoilers if you haven't played it.
If you haven't played Bioshock at this point,
no, you should definitely play Bioshock Infinite. It
definitely won't, like, even if we tell you parts of the story, you'll still be experiencing it. It's like saying, oh yeah, this happened to me in Dead Space. But the experience of playing Dead Space is very different than just talking about Dead Space.
Oh my gosh, that is a terrifying. That's probably one of the scariest games I've ever played. But there's a moment early on in the game. You're going through Colombia, and you walk by this Barbershop Quartet, and you hear them singing, and they're singing the Beach Boys. And it's just such a beautiful rendition, and it just gives me like, I get like a crazy flood of nostalgia when I think of that moment. And I remember having my wife play this and just like getting to watch her experience that, because Beach Boys were one of her favorite bands. So like watching the smile like come out, like when she realized what they were singing, she just like so excited. It was a cool moment. So yeah, the Bioshock series, not an exclusive obviously to the Xbox, but I played it on the Xbox, and yeah, one of my favorite single player gaming experiences on the Xbox.
Nice.
Do you have another one?
I'm going to go with, I think we talked about Borderlands 3 a lot earlier on, but Borderlands 2 is really what dragged me into not just wanting an Xbox 360, but where I spent a lot of my time. I think I put over 70 or 80 hours into that game. Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Because like,
that's like Elder Scrolls levels.
Well, because there's so much to it. And my friend and I, we just kind of got hooked on it. And there was just so much we didn't know. And there was so many more secrets. And I will say farming in that game was absolutely atrocious. Like, I think Borderlands 3 is a stroke of genius based on how much better this game is than 2. And just, I
really need to play it with you, because I've not touched it. 3.
Oh, dude, we can definitely, we can do that.
All right. So what'd you like about 2?
Honestly, it was my first time playing a loot shooter, and I didn't realize that Borderlands was the like parent of the loot shooter genre. Because before then it was just like Halo and things like that. You had objectives and stuff like that, Team Royale and King of the Hill and things like that. But I never played like for like gear, and like it really combined an RPG aspect, and I love RPGs, with a first person shooter, and that just seemed crazy to me. So
yeah, it definitely reminded me of like, this was like around the time I started playing World of Warcraft. Like this series reminds me a bit of it, like when you're in raids with people.
Oh yeah. And I think Destiny started also was originally on Xbox 360 as well.
Oh yeah.
Never got into that though. I just didn't honestly have the time to. And so I just didn't.
You missed Tyrion's top tier voice acting.
Did I really?
Yeah, so he is one of the main characters in the game, and he was so poorly received when they re-released Destiny in the next generation. They had Troy Baker, who's legendary voice actor.
Troy Baker is in everything, and it's fantastic.
Oh, he's Joel from Last of Us. He's so good in that role too.
He also did I think he was one of the voices in Saints Row as well. I'm not
Yeah, I don't
mistaken.
doubt it. Pretty much any AAA game, he's involved in some manner. He's played the Joker in the Arkham series, and he's also Batman in the Arkham series. I think it's either him or Nolan North.
I think they traded off because there was two Batman games that came out back to back, and they're slightly. It's not the Arkham like Knight series, it was like before that. And I think I forgot which one, but those are also great games that I just forgot to put on this list because Arkham City. Oh man,
So good.
I would say just the combination of those two aspects, which really kind of got it home for me, and just the art style. It was very cel shady. It didn't take itself too seriously. I think after playing Gears and Halo and Call of Duty for so long, I was like, man, I just want something that's like still fun, kind of nonsensical like James Bond games are, but also just like I think that's the transition when I got to the point where I wanted to play games without an emotional investment. I just wanted to play a game.
Yeah, not they're not super invested in the story, although it has a great story and it doesn't take itself seriously. I totally understand that.
Yeah, it has the story. The story, honestly, is it's fun because it's baked in. I think with Call of Duty and Gears, it's those games you don't play them for the story anymore. You play. I mean, well, let's say back. Gears, you definitely play for the story because it's a really well written story. But Call of Duty games, you basically just play for the online aspect, and everyone knows that you're not really playing for the.
Yeah, my only caveat for this specific generation is probably Modern Warfare 1. I really enjoyed the story. Yeah.
What's the story now? I forgot.
Boy, it's a long one. So
what's the time? Is that when they started zombies up? Because that was
this was the first one with zombies, I think. Yeah.
I also think zombies are overdone a lot this last generation, and I didn't play any game that had any kind of form of zombie anything in it. 'Cause I'm like, okay, we get it, zombies. Like, can you get a more annoying?
Yeah, I don't.
And that's the thing, zombies. I think it was more the noise zombies made. Like I wasn't scared of them. It's just like they just remind me of everybody who eats with their mouth open, and I just didn't want to deal with that in a game. It was just gross.
Yeah. This series is so solid. Borderlands is just so much fun. It was a great shooter, and they've gone on to do awesome stuff even with the Telltale. It's one of my favorite Telltale games, the Borderlands one.
And I actually didn't realize how much that actually affects 3. Like everything that happens in the Telltale series plays out in 3. Like it's a part of it.
Oh, really? Oh,
and I never played the Telltale one because I didn't realize that was the case. I thought it was just like, oh, someone got licensing and decided to use it, and that.
I'll have to loan you my copy so you can play it. It's worth playing. It's like maybe it's less than 10 hours, and it's super fun.
For sure.
Yeah.
What was a game that like? So you mentioned, I think you mentioned playing The Last of Us. You haven't played the new one, but you played the one previous, right?
Yeah. So right now, I played it on the PS3 when it came out. Loved it, and so it's been like 7 years between these games, which is crazy to think. There was such a gap, but this generation was so long. And so it's kind of perfect timing. They when they released Last of Us, it was like right at the tail end of the PS3 era, and like 2 years later they released a remastered version on the PS4.
Mm-hmm.
And it was super cheap. It was on sale right when I got my PS4, so I picked it up. It was like, I think it was like $20, and I was like, this is super fun. My wife never got to play it on the PS3, so I think she might enjoy it. Turns out she was not a fan. I think mostly because the jump scares.
Yeah.
So I'm playing it right now just to kind of like freshen up on the story before I buy part 2. But I don't know if you saw there were leaks about the plot points of part 2 before the game actually came out. And,
I saw that there were leaks, but I don't. Anytime there's a spoiler, I don't like. Unless I don't intend on playing the game and I'm aware of the game, I don't really like watch spoilers. I think for this one, I will do. Like, I started the last one, and then I got halfway through it, and then ended up just going to Let's Plays because I think I just got busy with work and I wanted to know more about it.
Yeah.
And also, again, I don't care what you call them. They're zombies, all right? Like,
no, they're clickers and bloaters and runners.
I mean, every name in the book you want to think of them, but they're zombies, and that was just annoying.
It's a viral pandemic, which feels very timely right now. I think the release of part 2 feels way too real,
and I think that they kind of like tried to not bank on that, but they couldn't end up.
Yeah. So
they already delayed it a little bit. This month.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So I was on Twitter one day, and I was in a thread that was not related at all to Last of Us Part 2, and somebody wrote out all the details.
What a dick!
Yeah, so I've had it spoiled for me, but I, it's they just get into like the main points, and we won't get into Last of Us Part 2 spoilers. I think there may be a day I want to discuss this game on this podcast. So, but it's not right now. It came out too recently. But they didn't get into the context of how these things happened. So I want to be careful about what I say. So yeah, sorry, you were mentioning Last of Us, and I wasn't sure where you were gonna lead.
Oh no, I was just mentioning how like the whole zombie aspect. Like, I think there were a couple games like Thief and Crackdown and games like that all were like, oh yeah, don't watch out for these guys. They come out at night, and oh yeah, they're actually like, they're not zombies, but but they're like, no, they're snarling, nasty, gross, used to be human things. They're zombies and they're gross. Like, I'm not playing this game.
Yeah, So yeah, I'm gonna mention a game. It's one of my favorites of this generation. I played it on the Xbox 360. I've actually probably played this particular game like 3 times.
Oh, wow.
And it's cell shaded as well.
Oh, okay.
But it's also about zombies, and that would be The Walking Dead season 1.
Oh, Telltale.
Yeah,
shout out to Telltale.
Yeah,
I will say for what I don't like about zombies, the Telltale series and the Let's Plays I watched, all just phenomenal.
Yeah, this is another one of those similar to Last of Us. The gameplay is not good. This was like one of their early games. They did a Jurassic Park game. They did a Back to the Future game. I
don't remember those at all.
Yeah, they were not very popular, and they were not good. So yeah, this was like their smash hit. And I would love to do an episode just on Telltale as a whole, because I think that company had such a huge rise and crashed so hard, which is really sad, because there was a great team that they had. And there are certain games from them that we're never going to get to see, which really bums me out. They were working on I want to say they were working on a Avengers game, which I was super excited about the prospect of. And they were also working on a Stranger Things video game, which I thought would be cool. But anyways,
we should have an episode on them. I think we touched on them a little bit in episode 2 with The Wolf Among Us.
Yeah, we did.
There's definitely more to explore there.
Yeah, and there was great news last E3 that we're getting a Wolf Among Us Part 2, which is cool. And I think we mentioned that last episode. But Walking Dead Season 1 has similar vibes as far as a connection between kind of a father-daughter type relationship, without being blood, and just the bond that is formed in tragedy and trauma. And I think it's a super powerful game. The gameplay sucks. It's really buggy, but it was a small team. But the decisions you make while you play more and more of these Telltale games, you realize some of these decisions really don't matter.
Yep.
It's basically kind of I'm sure you remember the like choose your own adventure books from when we were growing up, like the R.L. Stine ones were some of my favorites, where you could kind of pick where you went, but really there's like maybe 3 true endings. So that's kind of how this game was. Did you ever play this game?
No, I did. Let's play this one.
Okay. All right.
I will say it's funny to watch like the decisions that you would have made versus what the person playing was made versus like what the community's played. Shout out to the Rad Brad because I've been watching him do Let's Plays for like 10 years now.
Oh, awesome!
It's kind of hilarious to like think about that, but it's true.
That is crazy. We'll throw their handle up in the show notes.
Oh yeah. But I think it's funny because like there's things that I would have done in very differently. Like some of the things in the story, you know, like you said, don't matter. And then all of a sudden, some of them very much matter. And I think one of the cool things about this way of storytelling is that they don't always let you know what has more weight versus what doesn't.
Yeah.
So sure. Have you played all the way through, like to the most recent Walking Dead?
So my wife is like a huge fan and has completed everything except this final season that got released. I've played up through season 3, and I played the spinoff with Michonne, which I didn't think was that great. And then they did great DLC for this season 1, which was very interesting. That kind of focuses on 5 different groups of people. And they're just brief little vignettes. It's like maybe 30 minutes per, but it was a great DLC.
You know, I actually didn't. I saw the Michonne one, but I didn't think that was. I honestly ignored it. I thought, oh, that's cool. That's like a screenshot from the game, and Michonne's on it now. I didn't much think of it actually.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the TV series. I actually vastly prefer the comics and the video game to the show. But I've always found the character, or I don't want to speak to the TV, but the video game version of Michonne feels very hollow. Okay. There's just not a lot there. And it's a 3 episode. It wasn't like a full season. They didn't give her a full season. And honestly, if I had to recite the events of the game, I probably couldn't do it. I know she kind of like comes to terms with losing her family, and that's about it.
You say that so lightly.
I know, yeah, it's a super heavy topic, but it didn't feel as powerful as the bond between Clementine and Lee.
No, absolutely, I get that, and Michonne was definitely an anti-hero for a long portion of like the show.
Yeah. I mean, I always thought she was cool. I was like, oh, she's like the most interesting character they've had in this TV series the whole time, because I'm so over Daryl. I remember the year before Walking Dead season 1 came out, I was a big fan of Boondock Saints, and he's in that. And really? Yeah, he's one of the brothers in Boondock Saints.
Oh,
him and Sean Patrick Flannery. So I met both of them the year before Walking Dead came out, and I remember there was nobody at their booth. I was like, this is crazy. I mean, Boondock Saints is like a cult classic movie. How's there nobody here? And then when I heard that they were going to be there again the following year, I was like, oh, cool. I'll stop by and say hi again. And there was like a 3-hour wait for just to meet Daryl. I felt so bad. I was like, can I just meet Sean Patrick Flannery? I feel so bad. People probably aren't there to meet him. They're there for Daryl.
I mean, Norman Reedus, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, that's just...
His character's super interesting. I think they overdid it. And I think at this point, they probably want to get rid of him, but I think they would lose the remaining fans they have for that show.
Well, if they did, yeah, I love the way you slid that one in there. If they did, then everyone who misses Norman Reedus can just go play Death Stranding.
Oh, yes, dude.
Then they can hang out with him, and he can make facial gestures towards you on the screen like he always does, and
he can piss in front of you and drink Monster Energy drinks.
The official sponsor of the apocalypse.
Yeah, I didn't realize, but I'm glad I've started drinking White Monster, so I think I'm ready.
Have you really?
Yeah, I really like White Monster.
What is wrong with you?
I don't know.
You need to drink Bang.
Oh yes, Bang Energy. No, they're all pretty bad. So yeah, that was Walking Dead was definitely one of my favorites. It was just like such a And it kind of birthed my love of these like walking simulator type games. I'm kind of a sucker for them. I don't even really know if they qualify as video games at this point. There's so many companies that do this style of game, but I really do enjoy them. So
not any of those companies' creators are drinking Konami tears, though, so I don't really care about the rest.
That is true. So do you have another one, Zach?
You know what? I'm going to talk about a game. I'm going to talk about a game that was actually like crazy disappointing.
Oh, no. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I think I know. Yeah, I know where you're going with this.
So everyone, so this was probably 2014, but it was Destiny. Destiny was the game that I thought was super disappointing.
Yeah.
And it wasn't so much that the gameplay was bad or the game itself was bad. It's just the time and commitment needed to actually get anywhere in that game, I didn't have time for. And I feel like that's not a game you can approach and be successful at without that large commitment. And I would have been more on board if they hadn't said we have a 10-year plan for constant updates.
Oh, yeah.
I knew then, there's no way in hell you're going to do that. That makes no sense. And everyone's like, yeah, dude, jump on. And then like everyone who wanted to play with me like has specific times and specific raids. And I was like, I have work. Like I'm not rushing home, driving an hour home to get home to just raid for 6 hours and go back to work or school. Like that's not going to happen. And then, come to find out, Destiny 2 rolls around. Everyone's like, wait, what's going on? What do you mean? I thought it was a 10-year rollout plan.
Yeah.
And the first thing that happens in the damn thing is you lose every single thing you farmed and raided for and guilded for and ran with your buddies with. You lost all of it. It didn't matter. Welcome to Destiny 2. Welcome to your crushed hopes and dreams.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was such a major disappointment, I think, because
Halo existed.
Halo existed, yeah. So Halo 3 came out. Everyone loved it. And then that same year, after Halo came out, they announced that they were splitting from Microsoft and they were going to do their own thing. The Halo intellectual property belonged to Microsoft, so they were done. And it went over to 343, who, depending on who you talk to, have done a terrible or great job with the Halo series. I think I fall in the middle on that.
I fall in the middle too, only because like I'm gonna sound really shitty about this. I'm 30, so I'm not gonna point out every plot point, plot hole, lack of this, lack of that, lack of realism, lack of what. Okay, it's a video game, dude. Like, I get it. We're nerds. We're all nerds here. But at some point, you gotta,
At the end of the day, it comes down to gameplay.
Yeah, and I think like developers have. I feel bad for developers, honestly.
Oh yeah, I mean these people have slaved. Some of them are doing 80-hour weeks for months to get this game released, and then just to get shit on by a whole audience. And we've talked about audience reaction before, so we won't get into that. But
hashtag hot fixes.
I guess it wasn't fair because Halo was an already established property. There were novels before the video games ever came out, so there's a rich lore there that were embedded into the video games, whether you wanted them there or not. And Destiny was
great way of putting that.
Destiny was their own property, and the story just felt, for me, super weak. The gunplay was fine, but I just like holding a battle rifle in a video game and sniping somebody or shooting somebody. Just did not feel as good. And as hollow of a character as John 117 is, still better than the is it even a life form that you play in Destiny?
Okay, hang on. Do not shit on Master Chief.
Well, he is
not hollow.
He's
the hitman of the space world.
that is true. And there's I'm just going to recommend another podcast while we're on this podcast.
Double dipping, Calvin.
Listen to if you like the Halo series, listen to Hunt the Truth.
I'm down.
Dude, you're gonna love it. It's Keegan Michael Key.
I'm already down.
Oh yeah, it's super good, and Kumail Nanjiani's in it. and it is all about Keegan Michael Key. They released this 2-season podcast in preparation for Halo 4, and the whole podcast is about Keegan Michael Key plays this reporter, and he's hunting down the truth behind the Master Chief and kind of what turned him into what he is. Super, super well done podcast. And I think there's like 12 episodes total. Definitely worth your time.
Okay, sounds good. I'm going to check it out.
Let's continue with Destiny, though.
Yes, let's continue. So I remember when I first played Destiny, I was just very underwhelmed by, all of it. There we go. That's what it was. All of it just didn't do anything for me. And I get it. Like, it was very ambitious. I am not shit talking the ambition that goes behind trying to make this work. I think it's incredible, and it was a great vision. But I also just was like, this is not going to work. Like, this is not worth my time, or even like trying to pretend that this is going to be worth my time and energy. And again, I had Halo. Like, I remember playing this game and going, wow, well, Halo exists, so I'm not going to really mess with this at all. I don't care. And like, that sounds pretty, I'm sure that's pretty biased, but I don't know. I just couldn't get into it as much.
Yeah.
Halo.
Yeah, Halo, man. Yeah, the Halo games were great. I have one more before we wrap things up.
Is that time already, Calvin? Are we getting close?
I think we're close to an hour at this point.
Say it ain't so.
I know.
Ladies and gentlemen, we did not plan that, by the way. That's not a rhyme we planned. That just literally came out naturally.
And I love Weezer, so so this was one of those games.
Right. Okay. I forgot
that's what that was. Whether you wanted it to be or not.
I didn't. You know how I feel about Weezer.
Oh yeah, we won't do an episode on Weezer.
No, we can. We should. Let's talk about songs.
We definitely need to do some more music on this podcast. So my game is a game that had a lot of delays, and I think in the long run was worth it.
Interesting. Okay.
We definitely need an episode on game delays.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that's a worthy topic. But I'm going to talk about South Park: The Stick of Truth. Oh
man!
And did you play this?
I did.
Okay, yeah. So this will be great since we were shitting on zombies for some of this podcast. This was a role-playing game that was developed by Obsidian, published by Ubisoft, and Matt and Trey from the South Park TV series wrote in its entirety. They're big video gamers, in case any of you didn't know. But this game was super cool because it felt like you were playing in a standalone South Park episode. You create your own character, and you pick sides. So there's the elves and the I forget the other group. But basically it's Cartman and Troop versus Kyle, Kenny, Stan. And there's these different classes that you can choose from, and it's super RPG light, which I like, because sometimes RPGs can be a little daunting for me. I think because they're open world and there's like infinite possibilities of where I can go, and I feel like I get like decision fatigue, I guess, and I feel like I'm missing out on something, like maybe I went the wrong way and I'm missing out on an important quest or something like that. There's not any of that in this game, which I really like.
That's true. There were side quests, but you didn't have to like. I don't know. A lot of games feel like they add side quests as a means to kind of stall you until you level up to where you can actually fight a boss, and you didn't have to do that in this game. Yeah,
and the side quests felt important, and I didn't feel like it was difficult to miss any of them. And like, if you like the South Park series, even something as simple as like the collectibles, this is like one of the few games I've got like all the achievements for. Just because like the collectibles are so much fun, because in the game it's for anyone that knows, South Park has a parody episode on Pokemon that they call Chim Pokemon. And
which wasn't really trying hard to hide that.
no, they're blatant about it. And so the collectibles in the game are finding the Chim Pokemon. So it's fun. Like I hadn't seen that Chim Pokemon episode in preparation. So it was like fun remembering like, oh, there's a Pokemon called Shu, just because there were so many Pokemon at this point that like, I mean, they have a set of keys as a Pokemon. So I think it's kind of a play on that.
Oh, yeah. Like Pokemon, I was talking to my brother and sister about this. Pokemon, I should be hired on that team to create new Pokemon because I can just drive around Ann Arbor and just point at things and make a Pokemon out of it because that's basically where we are right now.
Yeah. So yeah, this was a rough production for this game. The original developer actually went bankrupt during production of the game.
Really?
Which is crazy. Yeah. So it was originally THQ. And then it was handed over to Obsidian and they finished up. But this wasn't an exclusive. It was on every console. It wasn't a super tough game, but I probably put in 30 hours, which for me is a lot for a video game. I just don't have the time anymore to do, 100-hour Fallout or Dragon's Age.
Oh man, yeah.
I just can't do it anymore. So this was just kind of like a perfect blend. It was RPG light. It was super funny. The story was compelling, very offensive, but that's
from start. Yeah, it was a great RPG. Honestly, like from an RPG standpoint, that's what appealed to me the most.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, I know that. I know how to play this game.
Yeah, and there was a follow up to the game. It's called the Fractured Butthole.
Which is
a play on Fractured Butthole, but it added more. So it added, there was placement. So like combat in the first one was you stand where you stand. There's no real movement in combat. And it felt more like a D&D simulator in the sequel because you could move your character around. There were objects that you could hide behind to protect yourself from attacks. I think it was a good iterative. The story wasn't as compelling to me, the second one.
It definitely played more off of the whole, what was the Avengers Civil War is what it kind of like tried to play like.
Yeah, totally. But I still really enjoyed it. It's actually one that I have not finished. I need to, I have it on PC. I need to go back and finish the Fractured Butthole. But there's a great segment where they talk about how played out Nazi zombies are in video games, and you actually experience that. You fight a lot of Nazi zombies.
And the people were really pissed about having to fight them, which is great.
Oh yeah,
they share in your anger, and I love that.
Yeah. Do you remember what archetype you picked for the game? Were you a fighter?
Honestly, thief? It was crazy because they gave you so many at the end that like you didn't really have to pick an archetype anymore. Oh,
I meant with the first one. Sorry. So there's fighter, thief, mage, and Jew, I think.
I definitely didn't pick the last one. Not because I don't care. I'm not explaining that. Just it felt wrong to do. I think I started off with mage only because I tend to lean towards fighter in most games, and I was just curious to see because it's either a game. Most games that have those kind of classes, mage is either great or it's either stupid overpowered or it's like you're getting your ass kicked. Like no matter
your
what.
Defense is just trash.
Yeah, so I decided just to try it out and see what it was going to be. And I thought it was great. It was a lot of fun. And like you said, the story wasn't as compelling, but it's also South Park. Like it's. Yeah, whatever.
I don't need anything deep with South Park. I think there was a lot of fun stuff. There was even controversies around, I think some scenes in the game were banned in Australia and Germany.
Yes.
If you've played the game, you know which scene I'm talking about.
They were. Oh man, yep.
Yeah. So, which is super funny. And they replace it with like mocking the European nations that blocked it, which I think is funny. So yeah, I think this is it for this console, for this generation. What are we doing next time, Zach?
I wanted to know something about. My question to you, Calvin.
Uh-huh.
Do you consider yourself a foodie?
I think you are more than me, but yeah,
Really? Because I feel like as a world traveler that you are.
I mean, I've definitely had a lot of food experiences, and I love food, and I think most of my YouTube history is watching people bake and cook. That's usually what I have on.
You basically are. I don't know why you're denying yourself.
I guess I don't feel I have the palate to be considered a foodie.
I get it. You eat mostly mac and cheese. It's fine, but that's not the point. If you want to know more about what Calvin likes to eat and talk about food, because I think we're going to add a little kind of things, something a little different to the show. We're going to go over some interesting topics next time. Will it be music? Will it be food? Will it be things you don't know? Will we talk about how many times we've tripped over our Xbox controllers that were still wired into the Xbox Series? We don't know. But all you need to know is that you will find out this information and more next time on This Podcast Is for Nerds.